for getting your week off to a good start, and no better way than with the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, Don Fischer. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm a lot weaker voice than you think because I did not do the entire ball game on Saturday because of laryngitis, which I am fighting as we speak. So I'm a little weak at this point.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know that is difficult. And has that ever happened where you did a partial game? I wasn't aware of that.
I did the first two segments of the game. We got to the second television timeout, and I had to turn the play-by-play over to John Herrick, who obviously does the pregame, halftime, postgame stuff for us. And he's a really good play-by-play guy who works a lot in Indianapolis with high school games and stuff. In fact, got a high school game the night before. But obviously, John took over for me after that second television timeout and did the rest of the contest because my voice was just shot. And it's not great right now, but it's better than it was. Trust me.
Well, and that game was a close game. We one of the things that I talked about heading into that is whether or not what Indiana team would we see? Would we see a team that was just lollygagging, going through the motion, or a team that will show fight and grit and determination? And I think that we saw that. We saw a team that fought for a win, that tried to win. They did the things that they need to do, besides some a few dumb mistakes, but and not having Khalil Ware to have played that well and to have played Illinois that well on the road without him was a good sign, at least. But I'm starting to worry that it's too little too late.
Well, here's the thing. The 8 days that they had between ball games last week, I think gave them an opportunity to refocus. What's the identity of this basketball team? Well, it hasn't really had one this year because defensive play, which has been the identity for the last couple of years, that being the key to that ball club's success, I think. Obviously, Trace Jackson Davis and some of those other players were always a factor too, but you've got to have an identity. And I didn't think Indiana this year established that defensive identity they've had the last couple of years. But in this ball game, they did that. And I thought the 8 days probably had a chance to get these guys refocused, look in the mirror. What are we trying to do here? And that's what we saw, an improvement in their effort, an improvement in the intensity level with which they played. And without question, they played their best defensive game in some time now, in my opinion, against Illinois. It was a 62 all tie with 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. And then Indiana couldn't make free throws and didn't make any plays, where Illinois made all of them in that 1 minute and 20 and made it an 8-point win for the Illini. And that's disappointing, no question about that. But at the same time, this is a basketball team that may have found their footing again. And obviously they've got 2 big ball games coming up this week in which we hope they will show that.
Yeah, you mentioned the free throw, something we've talked about all year long, and how it would have put them in a better position. Well, this was actually a time where it really could have helped them win a game, and they failed to do that. And it's still, I don't want to be, I hate to be negative, but I can't understand it. I cannot comprehend how any team that has good basketball players shoots free throws so unbelievably horribly. Free throws are not that difficult. I've done it, and I am terrible. And so I'm like, I say it all the time. I'm like, I will take any challenge that I can shoot 65% myself right now. And I don't get it. And it cost them this time.
There's no question it did. They were only 54% for the game, 12 of 22, and a good many of those misses, I think at least 3, maybe 4 in that last 1 minute and 20 seconds. I can't answer the question why they can't shoot free throws better. You've got Trey Galloway, who's hitting like 50% in Big Ten play from the free throw line. I mean, all the guys have dropped their percentages. Xavier Johnson's now hitting 61% in Big Ten play. Galloway, 36% in Big Ten play. Think about that.
That's not.
Ware is down to 47% when he's been shooting free throws, 62% for Malik Renew. And Baco has also gone slid after he was tremendous for the first 90% of this season. He's started to slide a little bit, although he made, I think, every free throw that he took, with the exception of maybe one. I got to go back and look here real quick. McKenzie, he was 4 for 4 at the line. So he's kind of back to his normal again, but he's still shooting way under 90%, which is where he was at before. So you've got a ball club right now that can't make free throws. They made no threes in this ball game. They were 0 for 9 in that regard. That's the lowest. Indiana hasn't been shot out in 3-point field goals since 2010.
14, I think. I think it was 14.
Well, it's been longer than 10 years. I can tell you that since they've not made it.
Oh, it was 14 years. It's supposed to be 14 years, I think.
Right. 14. I think it's 14 years that they have not. That's the last time that they didn't make a 3-point field goal in a ball game. So it's an ongoing issue for the ball club. It's an ongoing issue for this program for the last several years now. Free throws and 3-point field goal shooting have been a real issue for all of these teams in the last 5 to 6, 7 years now. I don't know how you fix it, except you got to get guys who can shoot on your roster. It's that simple.
Yep, absolutely. And they have an Iowa team coming in that is an opportunity. Iowa is not playing their greatest basketball, but this is a team that came into Bloomington last year and won the game and cost Indiana a shot at winning the Big Ten title. Indiana was in the race last year, and this was one of those losses that you really shook your head at. So this is another opportunity where Indiana has to get off the mat. Being at home, you're going to have no excuse to not do that.
Well, Iowa's a ball club that has identical record to Indiana. They are 4-5 in the league. They're 12-8 on the season. They have had some of the same problems that Indiana's had. I think they had a little winning streak. They beat Rutgers, Nebraska, and Minnesota 3 games in a row. Then they lost to Purdue and Maryland, and then they beat Michigan over the weekend. So this is a team that Indiana can handle if they play up to their capability. But Khalil Ware getting back is a critical factor, I think, for this ball club right now. They've got to play the same kind of defense that they played in that game against Illinois if they're going to beat anybody the rest of this season, because that defense that they played on Saturday was special. And I say that because of the effort, the intensity level, and the fact that they played it for 40 minutes. So that if they can get back to that kind of defensive play and then start to find their offense a little bit with Ware back in the lineup, hopefully Tuesday night, we don't know for sure. We'll find out perhaps more about Mike Woodson's thoughts on that tonight on the talk show. But at any rate, I think it's critical to get Ware back. He will help this ball club hopefully get back to where they have previously played some of their best basketball.
Absolutely, and this is something that they need. I think postseason play is something that's out of reach now, but it's not about postseason play. It's about setting yourself up. Even if that falls apart, you have to play your best basketball going out. You cannot end a season just on a downward trend, because that will affect next year. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah, there's no, well, if you end the year playing kind of like Indiana has over the past couple of weeks, if you end the season in that same realm, it's going to be really a troublesome scenario, because here's the other thing. Indiana's got a bunch of scholarships available. They've only got one incoming freshman at this point, and that's Liam McNeely, who has already signed for Indiana. They've got no other freshmen that have signed any kind of an agreement to come to play at IU. And now you're trying to get transfer portal guys that fit your program. And I think that's going to be a critical factor for Indiana next year, whether they go on a winning streak here or not. You've got to be able to find players that fit what you're trying to do, guys that are gym rats, guys that are shooters. Those are critical factors for next season. And if you're on a downward trend at the end of this year, it's not going to be pretty. And you're going to have a tough time getting some of those players to come.
Yeah, guys like Dalton Connect, who they tried to get and were not successful, and who has become possibly the best player in America right now. He is. I mean, I know that Zach Edey is going to get all the awards, but to be honest with you, Zach Edey is Zach Edey because he's 7'1,000. Dalton Connect is just really a great player who is going to probably end up playing in the big league for a while.
Well, I don't know anything about him. I've not seen him play. I know the accolades he's getting, but yeah, there's no question. But Indiana has to find guys that fit. That's going to be the critical thing right now. You got to have guys that fit, and I hope that they find a vocal leader in this next group that they bring in, because that to me right now is kind of what's missing.
Well, not that, just that, a vocal leader that also leads by example.
Well,
And that's, I think that's where the disconnect has been. It's kind of hard to, I don't want to cut on Xavier, but it's kind of hard to count on him as your leader when he has made the mistakes that he's made. And yet again, he gets a technical in this last game, which you can look at that as, but you know the rule, you don't touch the damn ball after it goes through. And so, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it was not egregious at his part, but here's the thing and this is what I don't understand about X. He knows these officials are looking at him, and he knows it because of his previous scenarios that he's taken, that he's done, how he reacts to fouls being called on him. Officials are watching X, and X has got to recognize that and be on his absolute best behavior every time he walks out on the floor. Quit reacting to every foul call and those kinds of things like you've just been shot. Those are the kinds of things that you just can't do. Really, I mean, the truth of the matter is he brings this on himself. He's brought it on himself. Stop doing that. It's just crazy.
Absolutely. I think he needs to bring the officials flowers in each game and present them with a bouquet and a box of chocolates,
Right.
maybe something.